Ladies and gentlemen, we do thank you very much for your attention, and now we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the
Welcome to our top travel destinations. I am your host, Kevin Flanagan. I have been editor of the weekly travel news column in the Sunday Independent and the Fine Wine and Food Guide, and I am here to use my decades of experience to help you know exactly where to stay, eat, drink, shop, and explore when visiting the world's top travel destinations. So sit back and enjoy the wonders of travel as we take off on our magical journey together. Welcome to the top travel destination. This time I'm taking you right across the world to Japan, and then we're going to jump on a bullet train once we get to Tokyo, and we're going to go on a 3-hour journey at 200 miles an hour down to the coastal southern village, which was once a fishing village, now known as Hiroshima, famous, of course, for having suffered the fate of being the first place on the planet to be attacked by a nuclear weapon. I wanted to tell you a bit about the city. It is one of the most extraordinary cities I've been to, mainly because of its history, but it has a lot to offer. So how do you get to Hiroshima? Well, it's a good distance outside of Tokyo, and I would strongly suggest you get the bullet train. The bullet train is one of the great delights I have ever had while traveling the world. It is this extraordinary system that the Japanese created a good few years ago now. It's stood the test of time. You travel at ultimate speeds, in ultimate luxury and safety. There's never been an accident. And if you're very careful, you book your ticket, you get the cheapest. It's not cheap, but if you get the cheapest ticket from Tokyo to Hiroshima, around about $100, you don't pre-book your seat. The first 3 carriages of the bullet train, which is extremely long, are unreserved, and you'll be able to get your seat there. And if you're leaving Tokyo and you sit on the right-hand side of the train looking out up to the north, you may, in the first couple of hours, see Mount Fuji. And Mount Fuji, of course, is this extraordinary volcano covered in snow, crowned by a curtain of snow. And this is the symbol of Japan. And coming back from Hiroshima on the bullet train, it was clear. Now, it has to be a clear day, but you come very close to Fuji. And if you're sitting in the right seat, you will have the most extraordinary views of this iconic landmark figure. So that's number 1 on the way to Hiroshima. Sit on the right side of the train. Just ask one of the passengers or the conductor who bow, and you have to bow back. They're extremely well behaved, and nobody talks on their mobile phone. Nobody discusses their personal business or family affairs out loud. Everybody has to suffer and endure Kate talking about Johnny who did this to her. No, in the bullet train and in Japan, everybody is discreet, and they respect other people's silence. So you will travel to Hiroshima in absolute silence. The first thing that strikes you about the city, and we visited in January, it's not the best time to visit, I'd have to say. The weather is cold, it can be quite inclement, and you really need to wrap up well. The ideal time to go to Hiroshima is between March and April. The blossom starts to come out, and you have this really wonderful explosion of color. So I would be careful when you visit. When you visit Hiroshima, what you'll discover is that the prices of the hotels and the taxis are considerably cheaper than in Tokyo, the capital, which is expensive when it comes particularly to taxis and hotels. But such is the public transport system that you probably won't need to take too many taxis. Also, Hiroshima is quite a neat, distinct city in as much as you'll be able to almost walk from one end of the city centre to the other if you have a good pair of walking shoes on you. What to look out for? Well, Hiroshima has a fantastic culinary tradition. It has some of the great ramen and sushi dishes. You'll be spoilt for choice if you can get the coach out to the coast, and it can take you across to the world famous temple, a 10-minute ride in the ferry, and you can pose and stand there and have your photographs taken on one of the great iconic views after Mount Fuji. This is this wonderful island, coastal island, where they serve oysters and they serve the most wonderful local beers and sake. So there's a lot going on in Hiroshima. You can really have fun. It's a very young city. We spend some time going to one or two of the temples there. You will find people there, young people, celebrating with their families. The actual culinary tradition there is actually, I found, very, very impressive. And then you have the commerce. Hiroshima, it is very hard to believe. We will come on to the World UNESCO Heritage Site, which was the site of the first atomic bomb and the devastation. But if you've seen the pictures of devastation, it's very hard to reconcile it to the rest of Hiroshima, which is a fantastic city, full of beautiful, gleaming, glinting towers of glass and steel, reflecting the blue sky and the scudding white clouds. The air is clean, as is in all Japanese towns. It was a real trial to go back to a place like Bangkok after having visited Japan, because you're so used to clean air. There's no real traffic in places like Hiroshima. Monday morning, when we were going back to catch the bullet train out, in somewhere like Bangkok, Saigon, Ho Chi Minh, you would have to leave a couple of hours in advance just to be sure you went snarled up in this traffic and this cloud of pollution. Not so in Hiroshima. The city is clean, the air is fresh, and the sidewalks are pristine. You could almost sit down and eat your dinner off them. So that is the wonder of this city, full of bars, full of some fabulous street food merchants, full of karaoke, if that is your thing. We did try the local karaoke, we did try the local bars, we had sake, we met some of the natives. It's vibrant, and you know what? They are so respectful and so delighted to welcome people from Ireland, America, the US. Provides most of the visitors actually to Hiroshima. They have a couple of million visitors a year because of the UNESCO site. And Americans who visited this awful atomic holocaust on Hiroshima come also in their droves. And it's a sort of a witness in a pilgrim city. And I think if you're a modern traveler, you will get so much from visiting Hiroshima. You will get the experience of a modern Japanese city, which has to be tasted to be believed. The cleanliness, the smartness, the fastness, the absolute clarity of service. It's so wonderful, and there is no messing. You can get in, you can leave your bag down, nobody's going to take it. You can get a cab and know you're not going to be ripped off. It's very, very, very pleasant. And then you have the other side to Hiroshima. You walk down the main thoroughfare, you come to the bridge, and there on the right, everything changes. You see this huge, long, low building, which is the museum, Hiroshima Museum. Beyond that, in this wide expanse of spaces, they basically took, to explain what happened in Hiroshima, an atomic bomb was dropped. It exploded over the main bridge and the hospital, 600 meters in the air, the 6th of August in the morning. And the park is basically the epicenter, which was flattened, and it's now turned into this very, very touching tale of the second part of these two cities, because here everything is dedicated to peace. They show the school which was obliterated. They show the shoes. It would make you cry. A lunchbox is on display, and the little child, because many of the victims were children or teenagers, the lid's off this aluminium box and the contents have been turned into carbon. Charcoal. So what happened to the poor little child that was carrying it? Well, we all know what happened there. So you have these heart-tugging descriptions and examples of what happened to the ordinary citizens, the kids, the teachers, the hospital workers. The bomb exploded over a hospital. You can very soon get a sense of the awfulness because there was no warning. I find that was one of the more chilling aspects of this. In the other sites that I visited, like Auschwitz or the killing fields, you had some idea of what was going to happen. Maybe that made it worse. I don't know. In Hiroshima, no, it was sudden. It was out. It was literally a flash out of the sky, which burnt everybody up. And then you go deep into the heart of the Peace Park. And there's a bell that you can, which I did a couple of times. You're encouraged to do that. You're encouraged to take part because this is a world peace site now. These people in Hiroshima suffered 80 years ago like no one else on earth has done, and they want to spread the message. So go there and listen to them, and you will meet people, and you'll meet guides, and you'll meet people who had families and parents and grandparents who suffered in this Holocaust. And you will see the extraordinary dome, which is just over the bridge, where many of the victims who came back into the city, having been burnt horribly by the nuclear blast, gathered in bewilderment, waiting for some relief. And one of those strange tales of history. The Japanese authorities only relieved and took to hospital the soldiers because they were the fighting men. And the kids were left to die basically on the street until a couple of days later more relief came. So there are so many different aspects to this tale. There are so many different surprising insights into what it's like to be in a city at war. I would also finally say go and visit the dome at night because there's almost an eerie quality to it. This building that, because it was built to resist an earthquake, did resist the bomb, but it's a skeleton and it's been left exactly as it was. So that's pretty extraordinary. But what you then do is you take a walk off out of the Peace Park and you come to these wonderful boulevards. You come to these streets full of household names, the H&V, the Zara's, the Chanel's. They have wonderful whiskey shops, dedicated gin palaces. They have the karaoke bars, and the people are young and respectful. And you see a city that's been reborn. I have never actually quite seen anything quite like it. You had suffered a unique blow, but it's really come out the other end. And it has so much to offer, and so much to show, and so much to tell. So I would really encourage you, if you're in that part of the world, and you do make it to Japan, and everybody goes to Tokyo, get the bullet train. It's one of the biggest buzzes you'll ever experience. And get to the first three carriages, which are the cheapest. Find yourself a seat. Watch Mount Fuji pass on your right and arrive in Hiroshima. And really see a true tale of two cities, one that endured a horror beyond comprehension, which we should listen to because it could be revisited on us all. And the other is a city that has risen from the ashes like this extraordinary phoenix, and it's full of vibrant life and young people and art and culture. It's got 2 museums dedicated to art. You can find your Monets there. You can have the best ramen. You can have oysters galore. You can have fantastic Hiroshima gin, which I did love. And you can sing a song in the karaoke bar. So it's a place that will warm the cockles of your heart while informing you with the terrible lessons of history. And what more could you ask in a top travel destination?